What's up, guys? Happy Saturday. Just right here watching some UFC. Go Sean Strickland. God bless America. So I never really paid attention to this that much, but I'm just reading this New York Times article. Guatemalan officials raid compound of Jewish sect and remove dozens of minors. The authorities said at least 160 children and teenagers might have been the victims of human trafficking and other crimes on a farm run by Lev Tahor, Tahor, no pun intended, Lev Tahor, an ultra-Orthodox Jewish sect. I guess it's anti-Zionist. Guatemalan officials raided a compound on Friday belonging to Lev Tahor, an ultra-Orthodox Jewish sect with past links to child exploitation. Prosecutors said they had removed at least 160 children and teenagers from the site who they believed were victims of human trafficking and other crimes. He had forced pregnancy, mistreatment of minors, and rape. These are some charges, multiple charges, including human trafficking. We suspect these crimes were committed by a member of the community. Oh, just one person? Yeah, right. So somebody named Manuel Salvador Aldana Monson was arrested on Friday night in relation to the case. He was arrested on charges of leaking confidential information to one of the leaders. The authorities had attempted to raid the community before, but they were always obstructed in some way. Also, he got kind of like what happened. I'll read that. So, head of Attorney General's office. Officials entered the compound a couple of times, but only saw that the areas that the leaders allowed them to see. Community members, Miss Prera said, would perform ceremonial dances and encircle the officials to prevent them from moving around. Can't believe I missed that when I read it right now. Friday's raid took place after. It's not funny what happened to the children, but it's just these people's insane. Like somewhere in their brain, like it's okay. Like it's like if they read an old book of religion, like, oh, we got to go back to that old way, right, or whatever. Friday's raid took place at 4 non-Guatemalan miners ran. Okay, so Friday's raid took place after 4 of these Guatemalan miners ran away from the community in November and alerted the authorities. From their statements and evidence available to officials, including medical examinations, we could establish that these miners have indeed experienced forms of human trafficking. So they've been on this. They've been there, but like they had no cause to go in. That's insane, right? Officers also found bodies that had been buried on the premises. The authorities said that they had no information indicating that the sect had used the town cemeteries to bury its dead, but were made aware of possible deaths of minors that needed investigation. This is sad, man. A Jewish community. Well, really, they're not Jewish. They're using that religion, right? It's like Christians that are phonies and stuff. A group of nearly 480 officials, soldiers, prosecutors, and psychologists showed up at the gated community early on Friday to secure and remove the minors. Agents who also seized electronic devices, including computers and cell phones, searched for any evidence of child pornography and explored the area with dogs to detect buried human remains. The raid is the latest effort by Guatemalan authorities to investigate the reclusive Lev Tahor community made up of about 500 members living on a farm surrounded by walls and a padlocked gate in the Santa Rosa department close to Guatemalan's border with El Salvador. Yeah, look at this gate right here. Insane. It's a fortress. Some members of the group, which started in Jerusalem in the 1980s, came to the Central American country in the early 2010s. They are of various nationalities, including Guatemalan, Israeli, and Canadian. Before establishing themselves in Guatemala, the community lived in Canada. In 2018, Guatemalan authorities began to take greater notice of the sect after receiving anonymous complaints related to its activities. Around that time, foreign members and other fugitive minors told prosecutors former members and other fugitive minors told prosecutors of forced child pregnancy, forced marriages, lack of food, and an absence of health services, including cases where girls had died along with their babies during childbirth. The group's leaders reportedly criticized the authorities, often alleging that the sect was the target of religious and political persecution. Yeah, right. Antonio Guzman, a spokesperson for Lev Tahor in Guatemala, issued a statement to the president calling the National Prosecutor's Office an inquisitorial institution, like where you give up something, like an inquisition, where you like, they're like pleading for their rights, and accusing the authorities of harassing and persecuting us mercilessly. They have rejected accusations that it harmed any children in any way. And then obviously they said an official with the Guatemalan Public Ministry said this is at no point is this an action against a religious community. And that, however, it is important to emphasize that no belief, like in any religion, organization, or profession, makes its members immune from the law. Of course not, right? That was the when in history when when government started saying no, we're going to separating religion from the state, because like you burning of babies because of some religious sacrifices against the law. Lev Tahor, which translates to pure heart in Hebrew, is an offshoot of an anti-Zionist Hasidic sect. They eschew technology and requires its female members to wear black robes from head to toe. Some former members in an Israeli court have called the group a dangerous cult. It's definitely a cult. This year, the United States Attorney's Office announced that leaders of the sect had been sentenced to 12 and 14 years in prison for kidnapping and sex trafficking crimes in a case that involved 2 Jewish children who disappeared from their home north of New York City. In a statement, an organization representing Guatemala's Jewish community distanced itself from Lev Tahor. So a Jewish community in Guatemala has made public statements separating themselves from the activities of this cult, Lev Tahor, and expressing support for the authorities and carrying out all the necessary procedures and investigations to protect the lives and integrity of minors. Even some of the women are in there being... It's a cult, right? Yeah, it's a fucking cult. And what was this article written? Because someone just recently got... I just saw it in passing. I just wanted to get some content out there. So someone just got arrested recently. So this is a correction was made on December 21st, 2024. So because somebody got arrested recently, maybe the leader of this stuff. So this is a New York Times article. I mean, we're already in February, so yeah. But they got rescued like 160. Insane. I wonder how much more of this bullshit's out there. Probably a lot, right? I mean, the big issue is like we have the Democrats complaining about rights and women abortion rights, but then they allow all these missing immigrant, the effect that was caused by allowing, first creating an application for immigrants to make it easier for them to migrate over here, knowing damn well half the country, not even half, more than half of the country, even some Democrats started to think like this is kind of wild, like I'm struggling here, I'm voting for you guys based off of this struggle that I do have, and I realize you're playing on my emotions. That's why Trump is the president now, because of this mass migration and the effects that were caused by this mass migration, or like thousands of children are missing, right? In general, the mass migration, it's like all these like worrying about that over there when we already have problems here, or and I could just imagine how much children are suffering out there in the world right now. And it's really hard to fathom. And I think we should be... I was thinking about it today. Like, why do we have so many loops? If somebody wants to kill somebody in this world, they need to be killed themselves. They need to be punished. Like, we're sorry, you're crazy. The system has fucked you over. Now you're fucking crazy yourself. But we need deterrence. We need deterrence, right? We need deterrence. It's like that question of like, how are we going to get rid of all these dangerous immigrants? Like, I saw an interview today when they were interviewing Pam Bondi, she's the Attorney General of America. She's beautiful to me. But she was on Fox News, and the guy was interviewing her. I think it was Hannity. Hannity was interviewing her, asking like, how are we going to get rid of like how are we going to get rid of all of them? a good question. She responds how she's supposed to, and I was thinking the same thing, and she was being honest. Like, what's gonna happen is that we are going to prosecute these ones that commit crimes. Any crime they commit, we're getting rid of them. Like anything, just any criminal crime they commit, and it should happen. Actually, when I was in county jail, I was in a camp. You go to this camp and you train when you go fight fires. When you're in jail, they get something called fire camp. Should they allow it? I don't know. I'm kind of thinking now, like, should they allow it? Should I be saying this? Cause I still like do graffiti and stuff, and I could go to jail for that. So I'm a little gotta be careful what I say, even though sometimes I say a lot of crazy shit. I don't say crazy. I think I say common sense things. Like I do, but again, in that world, obviously they don't play fair. I think I think the prison system. I think the government uses that. Sometimes they imprison people, and they know it's dangerous in there, and then they make deals with these correctional officers who make deals with the prisoners to get rid of somebody. I really do think they do this. And it's like easy to do that. And like, why wouldn't you do that? If you were a proponent for a certain system, why wouldn't you use this, like, just this recycle system of just washing somebody away and getting rid of them? It's dangerous. It's very dangerous. And I was locked up with somebody. I'm just bringing it up now. I'm pretty sure he was like, obviously he was part of the cartel system. He was a drug dealer in America, probably in the Los Angeles area. Because him and I were in the county jail, and then we went to a training facility, and then when you pass, like, you're there for like a month. It's like a cycle. Every month they have a day where, yeah, you go training every day, then you actually have your test, like the test cycle. And then if you pass that test, and then if you pass like medical clearing, and if you pass like security clearance, and then like, okay, or you pass, they give you confirmation, then you wait to get separated and go to a certain fire camp. And they're throughout all of Southern California, these fire camps. Like in Malibu, there's men and female camps. You go to Malibu. Mine was over there by Six Flags, mostly towards the mountains where they had these camps. And me and him were like the process of the camp, training camp, to the process of the actual camp where we actually stood out the remainder of our sentence as firefighters, wildland firefighters. And so him and I were together, and then got released. We were actually in the same crew, and then he was considered a paisa. That's the group you're in when you're in jail. They separate you by, obviously not just by race, it's by also culture. Because like the paisas are mostly the Spanish speakers. Obviously, you're considered to come from Mexico. Although when I was in jail, I did meet a guy. He looked like an Indian. He was actually young like me. He had long black hair, and I talked to him. He just seemed like an approachable dude, like a rocker guy, like a rocker kid you would see outside, like a rocker young man you would see. And sure enough, he didn't even know Spanish. I'm like, dude, you don't know Spanish? He's like, yeah, I just ran with the paisas because, they don't make you work out. Like, they're just like, it's like a lot less, it's just chiller, like chill, really, right? I'm like, oh, shit, okay. And, yeah, so it was, anyway, so I seen the deportation system. What happens is when you're about to get released, and in this paisa that I was kind of with the whole time, he was caught up for drugs. Him and I were in the holding tank when we got released. But he's like, man, I hope they don't pick me up for immigration. So there's like a point in the process of getting released, you're in one tank, getting moved to another tank, maybe hop on a bus to go somewhere else. Like if you're going from this jail to maybe downtown, or you're going, it just depends where they release you. So sure enough, like him and our journeys separate at one point. He gets held in a tank, and you can tell it's mostly Spanish speaking men. And you can tell he got caught up, and they're going to deport him. And so I'm just giving you some insight to kind of how it works when you're in jail. It's like a point where it's like, okay, the system clicks in. Some person who works for the jail system got an alert, like, okay, separate this man. He's going to go to I think it might be considered ICE. I think it was like, because what happens, they put you on a bus, and then they drop you off over the border. And literally they just drop you off on a bus, and you have to figure it out. Which, are we supposed to put them in a hotel, It's easy to fall in line like, oh, I feel sorry for the. It's okay to feel sorry, but then there's also policies and rules and things like that, right? So anyway, it's sad, man. It's sad. Some Jewish cult.